I remember, as a child in Europe, gloating over a map of North America that had Appalachian mountains boldly running from Alabama up to New Brunswick, so that the whole region they spanned, Tennessee, the Virginias, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, appeared to my imagination as a gigantic Switzerland, or even Tibet, all mountain, glorious diamond peak upon peak, giant conifers, le montagnard émigré in his bearskin glory, and Felis tigris goldsmithy, and red Indians under the cattle pass. That it all boiled down to a measly suburban lawn and a smoking garbage incinerator was appalling. Farewell, Appalachia. Leaving it, we crossed Ohio, the 3 states beginning with I, and Nebraska. Ah, that first whiff of the West. We travelled very leisurely, having more than a week to reach Wace, Continental Divide, where she passionately desired to see the ceremonial dances marking the seasonal opening of the Magic Cave, and at least 3 weeks to reach Elphinstone, gem of a western state, where she yearned to climb Red Rock, from which a mature screen star had recently jumped to her death after a drunken row with her gigolo. Again we were welcomed to wary motels by means of inscriptions that read, "We wish you to feel at home while here. All equipment was carefully checked upon your arrival. Your license number is on record here. Use hot water sparingly. We reserve the right to eject without notice any objectionable person. Do not throw waste material of any kind in the toilet bowl. Thank you. Call again. The management. P.S. We consider our guests the finest people of the world." In these frightening places we paid 10 for twins. Flides queued outside at the screenless door and successfully scrambled in. The ashes of our predecessors still lingered in the ashtrays. A woman's hair lay on the pillow. One heard one's neighbour hanging his coat in his closet. The hangers were ingeniously fixed to their bars by coils of wire so as to thwart theft. And, in crowning insult, the pictures above the twin beds were identical twins. I also noticed that commercial fashion was changing. There was a tendency for cabins to fuse and gradually form the caravansary, and lo, she was not interested, but the reader may be, a second story was added, and a lobby grew in, and cars were removed to a communal garage, and the motel reverted to the good old hotel. I now warn the reader not to mock me in my mental days. It is easy for him and me to decipher now a past destiny. But a destiny in the making is, believe me, not one of those honest mystery stories where all you have to do is keep an eye on the clues. In my youth I once read a French detective tale where the clues were actually in italics. But this is not McFate's way, even if one does learn to recognize certain obscure indications. For instance, I would not swear that there was not at least one occasion prior to, or at the very beginning of, the Midwest lap of our journey, when she managed to convey some information to, or otherwise get into contact with, a person or persons unknown. We had stopped at a gas station under the sign of Pegasus, and she had slipped out of her seat and escaped to the rear of the premises while the raised hood under which I had bent to watch the mechanic's manipulations hid her for a moment from my sight. Being inclined to be lenient, I only shook my benign head, though strictly speaking such visits were taboo, since I felt instinctively that toilets, as also telephones, happened to be, for reasons unfathomable, the points where my destiny was liable to catch. We all had such fateful objects. It may be a recurrent landscape in one case, a number in another, carefully chosen by the gods to attract events of special significance for us. Here shall John always stumble. There shall Jane's heart always break. Well, my car had been attended to, and I had moved it away from the pumps to let a pickup truck be serviced, when the growing volume of her absence began to weigh upon me in the windy greyness. Not for the first time, and not for the last, had I stared in such dull discomfort of mind at those stationary trivialities that look almost surprised, like staring rustics to find themselves in the standard traveller's field of vision, that green garbage can, those very black, very white-walled tyres for sale, those bright cans of motor oil, that red icebox with assorted drinks, the 4, 5, 7 discarded bottles within the incompleted crossword puzzle of their wooden cells, that bug patiently walking up the inside of the window of the office. Radio music was coming from its open door, and because the rhythm was not synchronized with the heave and flutter and other gestures of wind-animated vegetation, One had the impression of an old scenic film living its own life while piano or fiddle followed a line of music quite outside the shivering flower of the swaying branch. The sound of Charlotte's last sob incongruously vibrated through me as, with her dress fluttering athwart the rhythm, Lolita veered from a totally unexpected direction. She had found the toilet occupied and had crossed over to the sign of the conch in the next block. They said they were proud of their home-clean restrooms. These prepaid postcards, they said, had been provided for your comments. No postcards, no soap, nothing. No comments.